when it comes to Fusion, it's honestly kind of its own 3D software. Okay, maybe not, but you can still do a lot with it. The question is, how great is it, and is it overrated? Welcome to an ongoing series on my channel where I try to teach you something about Davinci Resolve as fast as I can. To teach you guys how to use the 3D systems in Fusion, I'm actually going to be showing you guys step by step through actually building our own little diorama, if you would. And this is what we'll be making today. This is what our node tree is looking like. We're using two different systems in Fusion, the regular 3D system and then also the USD system, which both are 3D systems in themselves, but one of them is faster and one of them is not. One of them has been in there for a longer time and one of them is pretty freaking new and actually just got a recent update. So let's go ahead and make a new Fusion comp and I'll start breaking down what we have to do to make this. Making our neon text doesn't actually come as easy as it may sound. 3D text in Fusion does not have the default option to glow, or there's no glow node in the 3D systems of Fusion, so we have to kind of work around it. And there's no 3D text in Universal Standard, which is USD, so we have to use the actual 3D system in Fusion to get our text, and then take that and we put it over the background, because in USD we actually get the option to build our own material, which means we get to use displacement, normals, and roughness, which, if you're not familiar with 3D softwares and how to do all that and what all that means, I'm going to try to break it down a little bit when I talk about it. I would really suggest watching some 3D tutorials if you want to really get to know that stuff. But generally, all you really have to know is, does this name match this name? And it's pretty easy after that, I guess. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our 3D text. This is probably the easiest of the bunch. All we have to do is drag this from up here. This right here in your quick access little tab here is all of your 3D system, so we can add our 3D text and we can name it whatever we want. We'll just call it neon again, and let's see what kind of font do we want. I'll just choose, I don't know, Poppins, make it thin. There we go. And then all we have to do is put it out to the output, right? Just connect it out. Oh, why isn't it working, you ask? The reason why it's not working is because we have to take it from the 3D system that we're previewing it in and put it back into the 2D systems that Fusion actually works in, so it can actually be viewed on the editor page. So all we have to do now is actually just have this text highlighted and click this one right here. This is your renderer 3D, and it will automatically connect them up. And then you can take your 3D, the renderer 3D, and out to the media out. Have your text selected again and actually come over here to this option, which is the merge node. Connect that and it will, connect itself up. Have the merge connected now and select both this icon for the camera and this icon for a spotlight. And now we have all of this connected up to our merge node. Think of the merge node as the actual basis of your 3D system. This is the actual environment that everything sits in. So this is generally what I like to preview everything in all at once, because you can see everything in the system all at the same time. To move around in the viewer, hold Alt and use the middle mouse wheel to move around and actually spin around your canvas. Just holding the mouse wheel will move it around, and then if you were to do Control and scroll up or down with your mouse wheel, it does that. I like to, however, middle mouse click and the left click, and that also does the same thing with a little bit more precision. By far the best way to control everything with this system is definitely select the node that you want to actually control and then just move it with the little GUI gadgets on the screen. That is so it's way easier for you, so you're not having to look at 3 different values over here in the translate tab and just trying to figure out, okay, which way is up, which way is left, which way is back. It's just way easier to just like, okay, I can pull this back and it's going to move back. Fantastic. We can see our text is actually sitting higher than everything else. It is sitting flat on the bed instead of sitting like halfway through like everything else seems to be. If we are to come down here, right click on perspective, we can actually select which view we want to have it in. So we'll just select front and we'll select text and bring down the transform. If we take down Y about halfway, roughly right there. If we look on our preview on the right, maybe we want it a little bit further down. Perfect. We can right click this, put it back into perspective. Now let's bring this back a little bit, maybe around there. And I'm also going to now do pick target. This is going to put a target right at 0, 0 pretty much of our canvas, which is putting it right where that text is. And what a target does is if you move your camera left or right or up or down, it'll make sure that the rotation is consistent with looking at that point. So we have a camera now, we have it positioned how we want, but it's still really flat. How do we fix this? Well, it's also really easy to do. I'm glad you asked again. You're really inquisitive today. Thank you for asking all these questions. I really appreciate it. All you have to do is come down here on the text tab of your text 3D and you'll find an extrusion section. Excrusion, excrement, no. You can bring up the depth, but you can see it over here in our other preview where we can see it's getting much deeper, much thicker. We can bring it up a little bit and we can also mess with a bevel, which isn't going to be super duper noticeable, but it will be nice to catch some light on. Like I want to get some shadows in here. So let's move this back. And once again, we can also set a target right in the center, just like we did for the camera. So now it's always going to be looking at the center point. So it's just a quick, easy thing to just adjust where we want it to look. But we still don't see anything happening in our output. Why? I'm glad you're asking all these amazing questions. Man, you're so questionative. Well, you can come over here to the Render 3D and just enable lighting and shadows. We can also enable the hardware renderer and you'll be able to get nice fancier shadows, and this is still going to stay enabled. But there we go. We have a good setup for our camera and lighting. We can even come over here to the side so it bounces more of the light to give us more of that 3D look. There we go. We have our text set up exactly how we want it. Now let's add the background. So I have all the other elements for the background set up over here, but I can't just drag them in and make them media ends because that doesn't work as we're expecting it to. What we actually have to do is create a view texture node and browse for the file location, which I already have pulled up right here, and we're looking for difference. Difference is essentially the color of your thing, whatever you're making. We just have to add this to a shader. So look up shader for U shader, and this is how we're going to build out how it's going to look. Or not difference, but DIFF was diffuse, not difference. I don't know how I got that. But all you have to do is plug that in, make sure that it's connected to the right place, hold down Alt, and then click and drag, release it over that, and you can actually select what you're looking for. So we'll just look for diffuse color. Just like that, and now we have a color, which we can preview in a little shader previewer thingy. I like all the scientific terms I use, it's really good. So this first one is going to be our displacement map. This is essentially telling the texture what kind of depth values do we really want this to have. So if we add this onto there the same way we have the other one, we can come over here to displacement and turn that on, and we can see in our previewer, things are getting a little wonky. Things are going a little crazy. That is exactly what we want. It may look weird right now in this little ball. This is exactly what we're looking for. And then we can bring this one in. This is our normal map. And then we can bring in this one, and this is our roughness map. The normal map essentially tells what are the finer details of our texture, like the brick differences and the, mortar differences. And then the roughness is essentially how shiny and how reflective is our object, which, as you can tell, is not the most reflective and shiny thing in the world. We have this now, but we want this to actually be on a plane. How do we do that? It's almost like there's something called image plane. But no, we actually don't want that. We actually want U-shape. I got you with that, didn't I? So add in our U-shape node and add in a material replacement node. And then just connect the shader node into that. And now if we were to preview that on our first previewer window, we can see it's giving us our capsule that the shape node comes with default, just wrapped in that texture. So now we have to come up here and change the shape to plane, and then increase the subdivisions really high. This is going to enable it to actually look kind of like it's supposed to, but we can still see it looks a little bit weird. That's because our size is really small. I will just make size as big as it can, and now we can see it's looking like a wall. There we go. That's looking pretty good. This, I believe, is new for Resolve 19 beta. So if you don't see this, just using an image plane in the regular 3D system is just fine. You're able to do this really easily. You can honestly add a plane right here, and then take the texture, your diffuse texture, plug it into there as a media in, and now we just have the exact same thing, but we don't have all the same bumps and all of the same grooves, which is totally fine. But definitely when 19 comes out, definitely add this to your workflow It is a huge upgrade to the USD system. So what we have to do once again, just because it's a 3D system, we have to add a render node. So make sure you type in render. And now we can merge this over this. This is going to make sure that the text is actually over, like a layer list. It's going to appear over the background. The yellow input is always the background. The green input is always the foreground when it comes to a merge node. And I think that looks pretty good. I maybe want the shape to be a little bit closer. So I'm going to add a transform node in here. And now we need a camera. We can type in camera and it will give us the correct one and automatically give us the merge node. Let's go ahead and preview that merge node real fast. And we can see, oh, wow, it's not where it's supposed to be. What a surprise. Let's just move that back real fast. Set it up to however you wanted it to look. Now we need to actually connect these up to animate from the side to the front, which will just animate him to start there. And we'll animate it out about to, I don't know, 70 frames out. Make sure that we're in the correct system with the correct camera selected. And we'll do that same thing. Did I have the animations on there? I did. Okay, so about 70 frames out. We will just drag this over. I don't know why the camera's not moving accurately. That's really bizarre, but it looks like it's working correctly with the lines. There may be a small bug with 19 right now. I don't know. I've been encountering a lot of weird bugs. Now, I did notice that I did do that wrong, actually. So I'm going to remove these keyframes and then just add them back as they are. And then over here on this other one, I'm just going to set this down to 0. This camera is going to need the same animation. Well, first let's add our target, and then let's just try to connect the X right here connected to camera 3D and X offset. So we will see, since we're at the end of the composition, we are going to be around here, and at the start we're going to be there. We can see it is moving about accurately. The problem is there's a slight change, like it's a slight issue with the speeds of the two, right? Like it doesn't look like they're actually going the right speeds. All it is just move that camera in a little bit, and I moved the position of the text a tiny bit just to try to get it to line up with the movement to make it look at least like it's kind of sitting on the wall. It can take a little bit of messing around to get it to look right, but all we have to do now is just add a couple different glows to this. I'm going to use first the soft glow, and then we will just make sure that threshold is up a little bit, make the gain up, and increase that glow size a tiny bit. And then let's also add a regular glow. And we have just a nice neon sign kind of glow. Doesn't look perfect. You can obviously mess with those settings as much as you really need to get it to look just how you want it. So up here in the shading tab, we can go ahead and change the colors of our neons. We can go ahead and make that a nice purple. And if we go to the start, we can animate it from here and go to maybe 40 and just change that color to be, I don't know, a yellow, a blue maybe. Yeah, how about a nice lighter blue? Yeah, there we go. So now we can see it just slowly turns into that lighter blue over about 40 frames, and it just does it once. So let's go ahead and make it so it repeats that over and over again. Select the colors from your spline panel, select all of the points, and set it to do ping pong. That's going to make sure that it doesn't just jolt back to the first color. It slowly goes back to the first color, then back to where it was, and then back to, yeah, over and over and over again until the end of time. We also probably need to add a spotlight to this. You may notice there's actually nothing called a spotlight for that. So if you add a rectangle light, it does pretty much the same thing. We'll actually notice that there is nothing happening in terms of lighting and shadows. We have to actually enable that. So we have to change lighting from camera to scene, and then that will actually give us the ability to light it ourselves. If we bring our rectangle light really close to our scene, we'll actually see that it is lighting it up. It's just really, really dull. So let's just bring up exposure, and then let's also make shape cone angle a little bit more narrow and give shape focus a big ol' increase to give it a slight blur. And now we have a pretty squeaking cool neon sign effect. To give that kind of flashing effect, all I did is create a duplicate of it over here with like a merge node. So we'll just do a merge and add it over here. And then I just put it over itself. And then all I do is just turn blend down and up, and it just adds that cool flicker. So, is the 3D systems in Fusion worth it? No, not really. It's not really worth it to do sort of building your own 3D scenes and whatnot. You can definitely do some really cool things with this, but not anything with full 3D objects trying to expect perfect lighting that looks super realistic. But you can do like still images. You can make those into like actual scenes. You can check out a video from Orson Lord. He did a video on that not too long ago. The USD system is definitely really cool. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they add to that in the future. It's just the lighting and reflections and everything in it isn't super impressive right now. But I really like how it's really fast. It's really simple. And I think they maybe actually be moving forward to turn this into their main version of like 3D environment, which I think is really cool. I would love to see that. Let me know what you think about that down in the comments. But if you like this video, then you'll probably like this other one. I go over a ton of stuff with different Fusion nodes, going over different categories that I made up all on my own to help you understand Fusion just a little bit more, including the render system in here actually has its own different nodes in different categories to help you understand what a bunch of different things in Fusion do